I wanted to make this film because I just seen that video with Stephen Fry saying what he would say if he got to meet God, and I realized it was a hypothetical question which led him to respond in that way. But there does seem to be this debate out there where you either believe in God or you're an atheist. It seems to be one or the other, and I can understand why people might think that. But I don't believe in a bearded, separate God or a separate intelligence or some power of agency that exists over my life. And yet I totally understand that since I've been making a practice of being more self-aware, there is a benevolent, loving force in operation in my life. You might want to call it your soul or your higher self, but those terms make me feel uncomfortable. I, I perceive it as my unconscious. My unconscious is running millions of operations in my body right now. And it has a much better idea of what's good for me. If I cut my finger, I have no idea how to make that better. None. My unconscious knows exactly how to make that better. I trust that intelligence. And since I've been paying attention, there are messages. Now, I don't see those messages as coming from outside of me. I see them as coming from inside of me. And in the studying I've done of ancient spiritual texts and religious philosophy and outright philosophy and lots of psychology, there are some core kind of principles of what it is to be human, which seem to be kind of across the board. And essentially, as far as I can tell, it is all about where you are at in relationship to fear. You see, if we're really overly identified with our ego and even our physical form, then we're more likely to be defensive, more likely to be scared, more likely to be angry, more likely to be an idiot. And when I am an idiot, things don't work out for me. People don't want to hang out with me. People don't want to work with me. People don't want to be in a relationship with me. And when I can be more open-hearted, when I can be more generous, when I can be more collaborative, when I can take feedback without getting defensive, and things work. It's easier. It's nicer. I'm nicer to be around. I like myself more. Life is better. And the spiritual journey is not about getting closer to some external being. It's about getting closer to my being, to who I am, to developing the courage to tell the truth, even when it's going to cost me, to have the courage to tell the truth when it's might even lose me friends. To find a way of liking who I am, to find a way of coming to accept everything that's happened to me, to find a way to be present and to love the present moment. This is my personal journey, and it's for me, psychology and spirituality, they're the same thing. If a school of psychology doesn't have a spiritual understanding, then it's this hollow tool that enables you to create behavior change, but for what? To get where? To do what? And if spirituality is just doesn't have psychology, then people want to be good and better and happier and don't know how to change. So for me, they're the same thing. It's all about the hero's journey. Every good movie we've ever seen is about inspiring us to be a hero in our own lives. That's what feels good. It's to be more generous, more open-hearted, not to allow our fear to hold us back, and to take courageous steps, and to be selfless in our actions, to understand we are part of an independent community. As far as I can tell, all religion is just a cultural attempt to make sense of that. Now, yeah, I get it. Those systems were hijacked a long time ago and have become ways of controlling people and making them feel guilty and oppressing things. And for people who have a relationship to reality where they perceive there's an external, judgmental, parental figure that's controlling everything, then it'd be easy to look at the world and think, well, that's just making people feel bad. That's the source of war, and there's all sorts of terrible things that happen in the world. What kind of a God would that be? It's like Stephen Fry saying, if I met God, I'd call him an idiot. You must be sick in the head. I understand that, but that isn't how it works. It's not what it's about. It's about understanding that there are these two aspects of our being and finding some way to balance the insanity of the conscious mind and the ego identity and its constant searching for material excess and experiential excess and new flavors and new, it wants to overeat and it wants to overdrink and it wants wild experiences and it's addicted to safety and security and having its stuff and making sure other people don't get your stuff. And that's all really normal animalistic psychology. Our ego is just trying to do what it can to help us have a good life. But, God, it's just, makes it hard. Right? But then there's this other part of us that's just amazing and kind and caring and collaborative and peaceful. And whatever you use to help you remember that, if that involves praying, if that involves meditating, if that involves sitting with crystals, well then, if that helps you be a kinder, more positive person, then that's great. But there is this new breed of brilliantly bright and intellectual kind of rampant atheists that seem to think, because it's easy to dismiss this idea of some bearded God, that the whole world of spirituality is nonsense. And it shows such a misunderstanding of the basic graspings of these early teachers who were just trying to give people an understanding of psychology, really, as much as anything else, an understanding of the nature of life. And new physics has proven that underneath our sensory perception, we are all rapidly spinning light. We are that. We are of light. We are energy. I'm sorry to say, Stephen. I know you said you don't like talking about people like talking about good energy and bad energy, but you have good days and bad days. You famously have good days and bad days. And when we're lost in the world of ego and we're suffering the idea there's no escape, to the ego, life is like a sexually transmitted disease that's fatal. And it hates it. So many people are driven by a fear of death and a resistance to death. And people think they're bothered about it because they're stuck in traffic or they're going to miss their meeting or they're going to miss the film. Yeah, that's annoying. But what's driving it underneath is a terror of not being in control and not going to survive. And that fear drives all of the nonsense that makes our world miserable. And huge amounts of that fear is peddled by organized religion. I get it. Most of the wars caused by religion, I understand people battling ideologies. But that's why it's so frustrating for me to hear brilliant people talking about it, this binary relationship to either there's a bearded God or forget about all faith. Forget about all practices that might keep you connected to your heart, keep you living in balance with nature.